Okay, we're in. So, let's hide this. So this module, we're going to have a look at the wider digital landscape, always with a PPC focus. So where people are spending their time online, their online budget breakdowns, where people are spending their money, how does it relate to PPC, and how both PPC and mobile is growing. We're going to look at paid search specifically, so some of the benefits, some of the challenges, a bit about how it works from an auction point of view, components to put together a campaign, which is really a summary of what all the next modules will be, putting together a strategy, and then kind of looking at the wider Google properties. So most of what I talk about is going to be google.com or google.co.uk. But there's the Google Display Network, there's YouTube, there's shopping ads, there's Gmail ads, there's a lot of other things that Google do. Okay. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but this is what Google looked like when it was first launched as Google in 1998. Does anyone know what it used to be called before that? No idea? It was called Backrub. And I think it started in Stanford. It was on the Stanford servers. So yeah, that's what it was called. Now 68%, well, now last year, 68% of Google's income came from AdWords. So AdWords is really important from Google, but they're always testing new properties, testing new things. They're always releasing new products. So I get about at least 20 new product updates every quarter of different things we can do with our search campaigns. So it's always changing. I don't know if you're more familiar with this, but this sort of looks at digital up here. People are spending more time on digital, so that is basically mobile. People are spending about the same amount of time on their desktops, and tablets is increasing a bit, but this is the mobile one, which keeps going up, whereas you've got your print and your radio and your TV, which are kind of static and kind of going down a little bit. So that's about screen time. And if we look at me, I have 4 screens right here. So, you know, I have a lot of screen time. If you look at the total time on the corner, we've got 44% in desktop, 41% of smartphone, and 15% of tablet. So just a few years ago, that the smartphone stat was about 30%. So in 2 years, it's already increased 10%. And that's not people changing their behaviors so much as increasing their screen time. And when we look at spend, display used to have the biggest spend a few years ago, which is here. Now it accounts for only a third of all digital spend. Paid search has increased to 52%, so it's huge. And mobile is one of the bits of that that's increasing. Mobile is increasing both for display and for search. Only recently the IAB published statistics saying that mobile on display outranked mobile on desktop for the first time in the last quarter. So the spend and the views have really exploded.
Is display Google Display Network?
So display, that's part of it, the Google Display Network. Also, there's a lot of ad networks as well. Okay. As I said before, display is probably the one channel I've not worked in, so my knowledge is not that extensive. But if you were to, say, buy from like the Telegraph or the Guardian, you might not do that through the Google Display Network. You might do that through, there's the DoubleClick Bid Manager network. There's lots of different ones.
Banner ads and videos and that.
It's those banner ads. Yeah. When I talk about display, I'm talking about those picture ads on a website rather than someone searching for something or someone in social media.
We had a recent campaign on Conversant, which is in one of the networks.
Sorry?
Conversant was the network that we had a campaign on recently.
Okay. Yeah. Criteo is a really common one that people have heard of. But yeah, when I use display, it'll be the Google Display Network, or it might be the DoubleClick Bid Management Network, which includes the Display Network, but has a few other networks as well. And then this is just looking at a year-on-year growth. So looking at the first half of every year, you can see everything is growing, but display actually grew slightly more than search. But search has the lion's share of all of the spend digitally. I think the main reason for that is that it's so measurable, it's so actionable. You can track everything, and because it's a pull metric. So I don't know if you know the difference between push and pull metrics. Pull being people saying, I want to know about this thing, rather than push saying, like, here is this thing, I want to tell you about it. Okay, so looking at our different types of devices, at different times people are more likely to use one or the other. And that really gives you the context of where people are thinking. So if you think about when you're on your mobile, you're probably not looking to buy something. You might be, I probably might buy something from Amazon, but if I'm thinking about a holiday, I might be looking and researching and kind of getting an idea. And then at night when I go home, I might go and purchase it on my desktop, which means that when we're advertising and we're bidding for a keyword, we look at the keyword. So it might be holiday to Brittany. If I am Googling the same keyword but I'm on my mobile, I'm probably less likely to convert, but it's still important to be there, because if I'm not there at that time, then, well, if the advertiser isn't there at the time, then you won't be considered at all. But then being a desktop, it's a different mindset. One thing to point out, because it'll be in a quiz, is that at the, if you look at the mobile line, people will tell you now that mobile behavior is kind of flat throughout the day. This is from, it doesn't have it here, I think this is from last year. I think now it's a bit more flat, but generally we see an uplift at night, even though you would expect it to be kind of in the morning. Well, I would expect it because I'm always on the phone, like commuting or something like that, but it does increase, everything kind of increases at night time, except for PCs, because people are on PCs during the day at work. Okay, so first chance to win something. How many times a day do smartphone users look at their phones? This is the average smartphone user. I probably do it more.
250.
Yes.
250. I'm going to go down Debbie's line.
200. Okay, cool. Okay. You can still say 150. You can share.
Okay, 150.
300.
I reckon 400 times.
No.
I reckon.
400 times. That's big. That's big talk. That's probably big.
I'm very big in the game.
I feel a bit nervous. I haven't looked at my
When it
screen
comes
for a
to
while.
looking at my phone,
It's the average. Gonna think of the grandmas.
I'll
Bringing it down.
Smartphones to 4.
4. Just
404.
Okay. Keep just adding them up then.
Yeah. 190.
So if we're gonna share, it's 150. I was so obvious. I'm terrible at, like, I've got no poker game. None. So you two.
Yeah.
You know, it's safe to throw. It's not about you, it's about my ability. Oh, yay. Okay, cool. So yeah, if you think of that on an hourly basis, if you're up for about 15 hours a day, which you're probably not, that's 10 hours, 10 times every hour, which is a lot. That's less than every 10 minutes. And I know for myself, when I'm always like checking my my email, and then it says it has been 4 minutes since you last looked at this, and it feels like an age, but it hasn't been. So, okay, so what are people doing on their phones? Half of people are searching, so they're on Google. A third of people are looking at a local search. They're trying to find something around them. And about 40%, so just a bit more than that, are purchasing. So there is that idea, and I said it before, that you don't necessarily purchase on mobile. And that is a general trend, but a lot of people are still doing it. And it depends what it is. So I know I'll purchase Amazon because I've got one-click purchase. I'll purchase Ocado. Things that I'm already signed in and things I've got an account set up, I'm much more likely to purchase. But if you want people to purchase on a mobile, you have to make the barrier easy. You don't want them to have to sign in if they're not used to doing that. Oh, more stats. So the average person spends 8 hours and 41 minutes on electronic devices, which is more than people are supposed to do. No, that's not. Anyway, 20 minutes more than the average night's sleep. 4 in 10 smartphone users check their phone in the night if it wakes them. I try and have mine on Do Not Disturb. I don't know if anyone else does that, but it can be quite distracting if it buzzes. And more time is spent checking emails in the morning than eating breakfast, which I can agree with. So this is the stat that I was talking about before. If you look at over time, how much money is being spent as a percentage of their channel, 51% is now spent on mobile out of display. So that's obviously more than half, more than the rest of desktop. 37% of total search. And the mobile. So this is just mobile specifically. This is like the other one. But you can see here that the growth year to year for search is 60%. So that's massive. It's just increasing all the time. I know that in advertising, we used to talk about it being the year of mobile. We did that for about 5 years. It was generally accepted that last year was the year of mobile. We're waiting to hear what people still talk about, the year of mobile. We haven't stopped. I think people are hoping that it's going to be the glasses thing next, but they've not managed to take off. But Snapchat got one, Google tried one, like maybe something wearable. Okay, so what people do when they search. If you look at Google Trends, or you get the data from Google, from search, you can get an idea about what people are interested in, what they're thinking, what their opinions are. So you can see here we've got the US elections. You can get an idea of what candidates are popular or likely to win. You can see what's trending and what people really look at. So Kim Kardashian was one of, I think this is from about last month, actually probably 2 weeks ago. The Hulk getting sick and needing shots, so I guess that's signifying the start of winter coming. And you can see where people are more likely to go to holiday. So New York being number 1, Cornwall being number 5, which I think is interesting because I have a plan to go to Cornwall like in April next year. I haven't been there. And there were people watching Game of Thrones. Okay, so this is going to kind of take you through how search has evolved. There's a lot of screenshots and they're a bit messy. But when search started, you might be familiar with the up ads, top ads, which is not great, and the right-hand side ads. So now the right-hand side is gone, but we still have ads at the top. Then Google introduced ads at the bottom as well, which are still there. Okay. Then they started playing around with things. So Google have tested image ads or images above the ads, which they took away and they're going to bring back. So they keep changing their mind. And then they sort of brought in this right-hand side knowledge graph, which gives you just a bit more information. If it's a movie, it'll give you information about the actors and the ratings. You can see here it's giving you directions. Again, ratings. Ratings are really good. Out of those. A bit more about the knowledge graph. They've brought in these ad extensions, so really taking up more of the space. Bing also entered the market, so I think they entered about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Don't quote me on that. And they have a very similar look and feel to Google. There are some differences, but they do find that whatever Google changes, if it's a big change, like expanded text ads, which I'll talk about later, Bing then follows suit because it's easier as an advertiser to set up your campaigns in the same way. And it would be a big barrier if they made us do our ads completely separately. And then we've got shopping ads on the right-hand side, and sometimes you see them up the top, and they have their own shopping page. And we also have other search engines that are more international that we use sometimes if it's a global campaign, but you wouldn't necessarily use here unless you really wanted to go after a certain market. So Baidu is for the Asian market, Yandex is for the Russian market, Yahoo is for the older market. Bing is kind of that, but Yahoo definitely is, it's going more and more away as Bing gains market share, but it does tend to skew to an older demographic. and there's lots of competition. And then if we're looking at search engines, you can see here that Google has a massive share, which is a good and a bad thing. So as an advertiser, I really focus on Google most of the time. But it means that there's not that much competition necessarily. So if your CPCs are high on Google, as they are for, say, like travel insurance, you can spend about £15–20 per click on those terms. The small search engines have a lot less competition, so it's good, but there's not a lot of volume there. Bing, it says, so this one is a little bit old. It is from June 2016, and it says 9.26, but I've been told by Bing that their market share is about 17% in the UK now. So I'm not quite sure where the difference is here. But the reason it's increasing is because Bing is the default search engine for a lot of products these days. And they keep doing deals. I see them, in movies, they product place a lot. But if say I start, this one is a Google one, but if I bought an Apple one, I think it now has Bing by default. And a lot of people don't change that. A lot of the time you can't tell the difference. The functionality is very similar. And then if we look on the right-hand side, YouTube is the search engine that these always forget. But Google like to promote it as the second biggest search engine because really people are spending a lot of time there. It's a really good way to get a message out. It's very cost effective from a marketing point of view. But it's not just videos of cats, obviously. People do use it as a search engine. If I wanted to recently work out how to curl my hair. So I go to YouTube. So they've got a lot of how-tos, a lot of, when you're thinking about a product, when you're really in that research phase, then YouTube is a great place to be. Okay. Everyone happy? Any questions? So paid search specifically. So this is now what a page search page looks like. Nothing unfamiliar, I expect. But just to tell you what all the jargon is and trying to start the jargon in case, it might be straightforward, but it might not be what you would call it. But when I talk about a search term, that's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a keyword, sounds the same, but that's more about like what I'm bidding on. So the difference is the search term or a search query being what the user is typing in. When I'm talking about paid search results, these are the 4 up the top. Sometimes they look a little different, but you'll know them by the ad, which is now green colored. This is a slightly older shot. So Google now, I think that kind of blends into this display URL. So people are finding it harder and harder to know the difference between their organic and their search and their paid search. Also the ads now, you won't see it here because it's a new change, but they're getting bigger. So we have 50% more space to write in our ads. So they look even more like the organic results. These are the natural search results, also called organic search results, also called SEO, which stands for search engine optimization. Ad extensions, there's a lot of different types. You can have ad extensions like this in the organic search, but usually there's something that we do in paid search. They can be manual. So a lot of the time we dictate what they should look like, but sometimes they are automatic. So I don't think there are any automatic. I think this one is an automatic one at the time. So they would have had my business account. They would have put all of their opening and closing times in there, and then Google will dynamically pull that in. We also, another note, which I'll talk about a bit later, but we can't necessarily choose which ones show. So you can have, say there's 8 options of different ad extensions to put in your ad, and then Google will pull the ones that it thinks are going to give the best results. And then the fold. So the fold is when you're looking at a screen, what you can't see below. So if I'm talking about above the fold or below the fold, it's what's immediately visible versus what you have to scroll down for. Okay, so more stats. Have a look at stats. Why you would invest in paid search. So 82% of all UK internet users start their online journey with a search query, which if you're looking for something, that's the easiest way to find it. 87%, so not more than that, use search to find addresses of websites. So I know myself, I didn't know whether Faber Academy was .com or .co.uk, so I would Google it, even though I kind of know it, but I don't really. 80% of users agree that search is the most important source of information when looking for products and services online. So definitely important if you're researching. But half of all e-business transactions start off with a search process. So it depends on what vertical. I mean, something like home insurance, you pretty much have your whole journey online. From researching to purchase, it would be online. Whereas travel, you might go into a travel agent, and then you might come back. But yeah, it depends what you're looking at. Clothes, you might start online, but you might want to go in store and actually purchase it there. And 67% of search is driven by offline media. So if you've got an above the line, which is another phrase, which means outdoor, print, anything not digital. If you have an above the line campaign, that generates that awareness that drives people to search specifically for your product. So if I was working on American Express, and they do very general kind of ads on TV or print thing, that they kind of just talk about the brand. They don't talk about anything specific, but it's kind of like, these are our values, this is what we stand for, just getting you top of mind. That drives people to search. When people search in the finance industry, they don't necessarily search for bank card or credit card. They think about the brands first. So they might talk about Amex, or they might search for like a Visa, or they might search for Barclays because they've got other accounts and they want to see what Barclays is doing. So it's really important for that industry to be top of mind. And then what can I achieve? So increase traffic to website. It's really quick to get results. You pay for it, you have an ad there, you can be #1 and you can start getting results straight away. It can be high quality and very relevant. So you say what the keywords are, and there's lots of different targeting options to make it as narrow or as broad as you want your audience to be. You can do an instant promotion. So for SEO or organic search, you can't necessarily change what the ad looks like. So if you've got a 20% discount, you can't necessarily make the ad show that, which is why PPC is good for highlighting that there's a 20% discount. Promoting the brand, controlling budgets, you can track everything right down to, whether people bought, how much they spent, and pretty much any other metric that's on a conversion page. So that final page, if you want to track which courses people are signing up to or which books they've bought, there are ways to track that level of information and then pull a report further down the track, and work out, what percentage of these, set of keywords, what are driving them to which book, and are people searching for one book but actually buying a different book. Improve return on investment. And more stats. 190 million people use Google every month, making over 100 billion searches. So yeah, it's quite a lot. So this is some terminology. There's a lot more in the jargon book, but these are probably the main ones that I'll talk about throughout the sessions. So PPC, pay per click, another good one to remember. CPC, cost per click. So we pay when someone clicks. In search, we don't have the option to pay any other way. There is CPM, cost per thousand, which is just per 1,000 impressions. If you were buying on display, and also you have that option in paid social. In paid social, it's kind of a combination between search and display, so you can buy CPC or you can buy CPM. An impression is just anytime the ad is shown. A click, obviously, it's you clicking on the ad and going to the website, but it is also sometimes called interaction. Google have, on their system, changed that wording because while it makes sense to be a click when it's PPC, they also include video. And with video, you're not necessarily clicking, you're interacting. You're allowing the video, if it starts automatically, to run a certain amount of time, and then it counts that as a view or an interaction. Click-through rate. So how many times people saw my ads versus how many times they clicked on it. So if every 100 times it was shown and you got one click, that's 1% click-through rate. The GDN is the Google Display Network. You might also hear it called the Content Network. It used to be called the Content Network about 4 years ago. I think it made the change, maybe 5 years ago. View-through rate, so that is someone starting a video versus how many people either completed the video or watched up to 30 seconds. If it was a very long video, 30 seconds, that's counted as a view. What is counted as a view on other properties, so what Facebook counts as a view or Twitter, they all change. So view-through rate you have to be careful of, but on YouTube it's 30 seconds. And then you have a lot of CP something. If it's CP something, it's cost per something. We tend to kind of make up what those things are. So we've got cost per view, which is like cost per click. It's how many times people reach that 30-second mark. CPA can be cost per action or cost per acquisition. It kind of means the same thing. It's like how many times did it convert? How many times did someone do what you wanted them to do? Cost per sale for S, cost per quote. If you were talking about an app campaign, it's cost per install, CPI. So really, you might see a lot of CP somethings, and then you kind of have to work out what that thing is. And then conversion rate, which can be written as CR, CVR, or sometimes with a small v. Conv rate, it's basically just shortening that. Okay, does that make sense? Is everyone kind of familiar with this already? Okay, good. It's good to just make sure that everyone's on the same page. Okay, paid search strength. So we've been through this a little bit already, but you can deliver traffic really quickly, and you can turn something on or off straight away. So if you wanted to, if you had a new course, you can set up a campaign. If you could do it in about a day, given that the ads were approved and all the keywords were put together, you can start getting your traffic straight away. With organic, there's a lot of trust issues that need to be built with Google first before it will increase your rankings. So it can be a much slower process. Lots of qualified users with lots of close control. So you can target people based on the keywords. You can target their demographics. So if you want to show your ads to people who are 35 and above, you can do that. It's a new feature, but it can be done. You can choose location, so if they are in London only versus the rest of the UK or any other country. You can choose the time of day that you show the ad. So if you want a campaign just for the morning and you want to have, it's like a breakfast campaign, then you can do that, or you can have dinner campaign, or you can start advertising your dinner campaign just at breakfast because you know people, or like at lunchtime because that's when people are thinking about what they might have for dinner. Yeah, so there's lots of different signals that we can use and lots of ways we can slice and dice, but there's a lot of control. Niche audiences, so if you can think of the keyword, you can have them. You can even focus on email addresses. So if you've got people who have been to a course or bought a book before, there's minimum threshold, so you need to have 1,000 matched email addresses. And by matched, it has to, you put the email addresses in, and then Google has to match them with their system. So probably they need a Gmail account. The rate is about 60%. You can show ads when people search on keywords specifically to those people in those email addresses. So you can get really kind of big brother and really nitty gritty. You can control your spend. So if you want to spend only £100 a day, you can do that. £1,000 a day, you can do that. Acquire a strong ROI. So this is kind of looking at where you would see different, in the social and the search space, what those mediums are good for. So definitely Facebook and Twitter tend to be much more upper funnel, to kind of go, okay, just to tell people that they have courses that you could do. People might not have thought about a course, but just, if it's a writing course, they might be interested in writing because that's one of their interests, or particular author or anything like that. Then Google is about the research phase, conversion. There is a way to kind of take people who have been on your page and then remarket them to them when they go back to Facebook as well, so they can work very hand in hand. But then Facebook is good about retention. So if someone has signed up or completed a course and then you want to give them a bit more love afterwards, just make sure that they remember things or to give them a bit more added value, you can do that through Facebook as well. And it's measurable. So yeah, there's a lot of information we can see here. There's lots of stats, impressions, interactions, rates, costs, breakdowns. You can slice and dice your activity by device and location and all sorts of things. So being able to get the best out of that, you need to set your campaigns up in a certain way. So if it was really important for you to be able to work out which city you are getting, or which, I don't know if you can go down to a county. I don't really understand. I'm from Melbourne, so we had states and suburbs. But if you wanted to go down to that level of analysis, if you just set up a campaign, you won't be able to see it. What you would need to do is target each of those individually or within the same campaign. So actually the performance doesn't change, but it means that you can get that analysis later. So that's really about thinking about what your objectives are and what you want before you start setting up a campaign, so that you do it in the right way. And types of things we can measure. So we've got our impressions, click-through rates, clicks, CPC, position, impression share. Impression share is out of all of the potential searches, how many times did your ad show? So people might search for a particular keyword like 1 million times a day. But if you've got a certain budget, you might only be able to show 1 in every 2 searches. Google will either spend all your money straight away, or it'll portion it throughout the day, depending on your settings. So that would be a 50% impression share. 1 in 4 searches shown would be 25% impression share. Cost per acquisition is another CPE, cost per engagement. It's much more a social media metric than it is a search one, but it is used for YouTube quite a lot. You can like and you can share YouTube. Interactions on the site, which is different from the interactions that I talked about before, because those are clicks, but these interactions are conversions. So there's a bit of fluidity with the terms, but you could have someone either getting a quote or asking to call back, and you can track a few different ones. It doesn't always have to be the end goal. If you want to do a few other checkpoints above, so someone signing up to the newsletter as well as someone purchasing a course, then you can do that. And then you've got your additional signals, location, device, site behavior, time of day. It's all sorts of things you can measure in different systems. So site behavior is something that you would look at Google Analytics. If you want a lot more information about the site and what people are doing on your website, then that's Google Analytics is where you would get that, but Google AdWords can pretty much give you all of the other information. And challenges. So mobile, while it's great and it's increasing, it is a challenge for us. This here is just showing you, this is P&O cruises, but you can just see that their mobile traffic is going up. People are likely to search for them more often on mobile. But mobile it's a very small screen, so you really want to be position 1 or 2, which can be expensive. Because if you're a bit lower down, people aren't really going to scroll. Also, the cross-device is difficult to measure, because while we use cookies on desktops, there's not really any cookies on mobile. So if I am on my desktop and then I switch to mobile or vice versa, Google might not necessarily be able to see that I'm the same person. So a lot of the time what we see when we're tracking campaigns is we break down our CPA by device. You can see a really low CPA on desktop and you see a much higher CPA on mobile. If you were then to go, okay, mobile's not working very well, I want conversions, I'm just going to minimize the spend, because they're not tracking the same person very well, you'll see your desktop CPA increase, you'll see your conversions drop. So it's very difficult to find that sweet spot. I think one of the things you'll hear about a lot in advertising, or I hear about a lot in advertising lately, is a single customer view. So Google, Facebook, a lot of the different platforms are trying very hard to work out how do you connect all those dots. Google's doing a lot of work with cross-device conversions, which they used to have as a separate column, because they didn't have, when we were looking at our reporting, they didn't have all that much confidence in it. They were like, this is what we think is right, but we can't really tell. Now they have 95% confidence in those metrics, and they're bringing them into just the normal conversion columns. So we are able to get a bigger picture. That means that we can attribute the value that mobile is giving us much more easily, but there's still some work to be done. It can be expensive. So, if you're travel insurance and you want to pay £15 every time someone clicks, I mean, if I'm researching, I might click on your ad 4 times, 5 times, and I just cost you like £60 or something, just to have an ad there. So, I mean, because it's so trackable, you might spend so much money on a billboard, and you don't know how many people are actually taking notice of it. But compared to another keyword which might cost £1, it seems really expensive. And then it gets more competitive as it keeps going up. So yeah, that is one of our challenges, to keep minimizing costs. It's increasingly complex. So I will, in 2 bits, take you through layering all of the options just for setting a bit. And for us, because there's so many signals, there's so many ways you can slice and dice it, it can get a bit overwhelming. But this is what marketers say is their bugbears, that keywords are too expensive, it's very competitive, they don't have quite enough budget, they might not get the conversions that they want, they don't have enough resource, it's very time consuming. So you might say, this all seems really easy, but now I'm spending 50% of my day doing it. So it can take a lot of time. Tracking, as I said, with the cross-device, lack of know-how. So things are changing all the time. And I've been doing this for 10 years, but I sometimes struggle to keep up with how many new features are coming out and how many new things there are. Sometimes the traffic quality is not very good, and sometimes there's not enough volume for something very niche that you want to do. And Google's monopoly. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing all at once. They really can do what they want. But for us, you just can love Google and it's fine. You just have to be on board with it. Okay, so how does it work? I don't know if this will work, but no, of course it's not going to work. I'm going to show you a video so I get a bit of a break. Okay. I don't want to stop.
We try to do like Chrome sounds.
Ah, smart. Smart. Do you know what it's doing? Oh no. Do we need a sound thing?
The projector is very good. It should take the HDMI feed.
I don't think it.
Online advertising has a.
Can you hear that?
That's okay. Good.
Okay.
Language all its own, and if it sounds like a foreign language to you, you're not alone. But it's important to get comfortable with the terms so that you can make the most out of your AdWords investment. To help make sense of it all, here's a scenario. Owen is planning a wedding, and Brenda is a photographer. Brenda uses AdWords to advertise online to people who are looking for a photographer. This is one of her ads. Brenda takes 3 types of photos: babies, real estate, and weddings. She uses different ads for each area of her business. Each collection of ads makes up an ad group. Brenda assigns to each ad group the words and phrases that are relevant to that part of her business. These are keywords. AdWords uses keywords to help decide which ads to show to people searching for things online. Brenda's 3 ad groups make up a campaign. The campaign is where Brenda decides big picture things like her preferences for the devices her ads will show up on and how much she spends. Owen types experienced wedding photographer into google.com. The phrase experienced wedding photographer is his search term. He sees 2 types of search results. Organic search results, located in the middle of the page, are the websites that match Owen's search term. No one can pay to appear in these results. The second type of results, paid results, are usually located at the top, bottom of the page. These These are ads from businesses that are using AdWords. In most cases, an advertiser is charged when someone like Owen clicks one of these ads. Does Brenda's ad appear when Owen makes a search? That depends. Whenever someone uses Google to search, there's an auction that determines which ads appear and in which order. Two main factors determine the outcome. How much an advertiser is willing to pay for a click, which is a bid, and something called quality score. Quality score is an estimate of how relevant and useful your ad and the page on your website it links to are to someone seeing your ad. Together, bid and quality score determine where and if Brenda's ad appears on Owen's search results page. Bids and budget are different. Your bids affect how much you'll spend each time someone clicks one of your ads. Your budget affects how much you'll spend each day on your entire campaign, which influences how often your ads are shown. As it turns out, Brenda's ad appears on Owen's search results page. This is an impression. Owen clicks Brenda's ad to find out more on her website. This is a click. Owen likes what he sees on Brenda's website and hires her to photograph his wedding. Brenda's ad has gotten Owen to do something valuable, hire her for an event. This is a conversion. Owen is a satisfied customer. Brenda is a happy advertiser. These are results.
Okay. There's lots of tutorials online.
You're investing in ad.
You love the American cheesiness of it all. Okay. So that's an intro to it. But basically, the building blocks that we have to work with are that it's a real-time auction and that relevancy is really important. So to go a bit more into the maths of how it all works, on the face of it, it's a blind auction model. So it's kind of like eBay. You will pay 1p more than your next competitor to be above them. But there's a lot of different factors that go into that. So that's the start, but that's not necessarily true. But really, you know, as we saw, the user inputs a search query. They match the user's query with a keyword. So if you're searching for photographer and someone types it, if you are bidding on the keyword photographer and someone types in wedding photographer, it depends on your match types, on whether you'll show or not. If it's an exact match, you won't show. But if it's broad match, then you'll show. But I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. Google calculates things. So the quality factor means that there's a bit of a calculation involved, and the result is called ad rank. So your ad rank is basically what ranks your ads, as it says, but it's based on your bid, your quality score, and then your ad extensions. Shall we go through? And then when the ad is clicked, you are charged with the CPC. So it's not, you might bid £1, but you might be charged 87p, and that is dependent on what your other people, the competitors are bidding, but also your quality score. If you've got a high quality score, then you should look to pay less for your costs, your CPC. Okay, so this is a scenario, and then you've got your calculation at the top. Advertiser 1 is happy to pay £2. Advertiser 2 is happy to pay $4. Advertiser 3 is happy to pay $6, and advertiser 4 happy to pay $8. Now you've got here their quality. So for this and for these calculations, we won't look at ad extensions. The ad extension is just that if you've got it, Google factors in the ability or the likelihood that it will increase your performance or your click-through rate. Basically, it boils down to if you've got ad extensions, that's good. You'll get a little bit better ad rank or a bit lower CPC. But if you don't have them, then you're probably paying a little more than you need to. But aside from that, we'll ignore that. Advertiser 1 has the most relevant keywords. So they're paying the least, but they're actually getting the most. And if you times it 2 by 20, 2 by 10, the ad rank is 20. So they're paying the least, but compared to advertiser 4, who only has an ad rank or an ad quality score of 1, and is paying £8, so 4 times as much. But he only has an ad rank of 8, so he pays the most, but he gets charged the least. So you can see how the 1p more than your next competitor is kind of not correct and a bit confusing, but it's all worked out working back through these calculations. So what makes a quality score? Google doesn't tell us, really. They don't tell us a lot of things, but we can, through experience, through tests, we have an idea. Click-through rate here is the most important factor, and it's the most measurable and the factor that we can have the most impact on. So back to my example of photographers. If I was bidding on the keyword photographers and I just want to bid broad, so anytime someone has anywhere and types in a search term photographers, I want to show my ad. So I'm typing in, I'm showing my ad for wedding photographers. I'm probably showing an ad for photography school, photography books, photography of my kids, how to take good photos, all sorts of different searches. I would expect that for a lot of those searches, they're irrelevant. So for a lot of those times, I'm going to get a low click-through rate. So someone might click on my ad 1 in every 1,000 searches, every 1,000 times it shows. But if I want to just bid on wedding photographers, because that's what I am, and I'm not broad matching, I'm just phrase matching, so just only when someone puts in that phrase, then my ad will get clicked on much more because it'll be much more relevant. So finding ways to increase that click-through rate for your keywords is makes a big difference. Historical performance is something that means that if we have an account, if we take over an account from someone and it's been doing really badly for a long time, and we completely restructure it, we change it, and we expect it to perform well, it usually takes between 1 and 3 months for that kind of historical aspect to go away and to start seeing good results. Similarly, if you have a good account and then you want to test something and actually it works really badly, or, you've got a course that's really unpopular, then your whole account won't be affected. There's a quality score. I'm talking about an account. Quality score can be seen. Google tells you what each keyword's quality score is. It doesn't tell you the quality score of your ad, your campaign, your account necessarily, but we know that it's there. They factor it in. Google has recently released like an account health percentage. So one of our accounts recently got like 96% or something as an account health, which is kind of like a quality score. We were really happy with that because Google, when it looks at things, it doesn't always look at how well is it performing. They're like, how many products are you using of ours? So, they're a business. So we don't always agree with them, but they, the quality score is always there. But what we can see is your keyword. So you can see that a keyword had a quality score of 5, but maybe now it has a quality score of 6. The other thing is relevancy. So we've got your keywords, your ad copies, your landing pages. The way that Google understands that they're relevant is having the same words in them. So if you've got, wedding photographers is your keyword, your ad talks about wedding photographers, and then your page is all about you being a wedding photographer, then that's relevant. But if your ad, is about just taking photos, but the keyword is wedding photographers, and then your page is, I don't know, like a page with all your photos on it, and it's just like home snaps, then that's probably not so relevant because Google knows that wedding photographers and then your personal home photos are not the same thing.
If we're advertising creative writing courses, the keyword creative writing courses, and the landing page is the writing courses page, like the product listing page, that's better than directing people to just a splash, just a Facebook account. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a better user experience as well. Usually,
take H1s into account. I mean, how does it read the relevance?
Yeah, it reads so it looks at the HTML or however it's created, and it can pull all of those words out from the scripts. But it can also look a little bit at the words in pictures as well as image recognition.
I really like alt text and.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely
can-
alt text,
yeah.
absolutely. But if you've just got like your, it's just an image and it says Faber Academy on it, or it says writing courses on it, to a degree it can look at that. The one thing that I know that Google can't really look at is Flash, but Flash, with the rise of mobiles, has been the fall of Flash because they didn't support it. You don't see all of these like things kind of coming up across the screen now. I don't know, they used to move around. Yeah, so so relevance is really key.
Make it less cold.
My computer's about to run out of battery already.
There's a sound bar there.
So it's yeah.
Oh, I'm not using this
Are you
one.
not using it? Is
No.
it the same kind of thing? I think it.
Well, I don't know what this cable, or do you want the power?
No, this cable may work if you're not using it.
Yeah, I'm not using it. It's not even mine, it's my husband's because I somehow left mine at work. I remember getting it, it wasn't in my bag. And that's, no, doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the power plug is.
Mine's just my music.
Oh no, wait, power plug is not being used. Sorry, it's been pulled out to account for this one.
Yeah. Can I borrow that cable for a little while?
This one? Oh yeah, absolutely.
If that's full battery, it's just incredibly hard to access my actual power cable.
No, that's fine.
Entangled with it.
I didn't think of that. Your laptops are all similar, probably,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So yeah, this is vertical QS tax. QS being quality score is if you're in a certain vertical, Google can make assumptions about you. So if you've got if you're Amex and it's finance vertical, potentially it knows that tax because everything they know that maybe people will spend more, so they charge them more. I don't know.
And that affects the quality score rather than anything else.
Well, if the quality score is affected, that will have the knock-on effect to the bids that need to be paid to get a certain position. But these sort of things, and this is probably why there's stars there. This is just a screenshot. But I expect it's because these are things that we don't know, but we think is pretty correct. But Google never comes out and says, keywords must be relevant or click-through rate is a factor. And then this is kind of doing the calculations on how much you'll actually pay. It's trying to show you that £1 extra. So if you've got here, you've got an ad rank of 20. Your competitor has an ad rank of 16. So that's 16 out of 10. 16 out of 10 here, plus your 1p. So they will go into. I don't know. It gets kind of confusing. Does this make sense? 16 out of 10. And then the 1p. So you've got 16, their ad rank, over 10 your quality score, gives you £1.60. Whereas here, you've got your 12 over 4, so your competitor has an ad rank of 12, and you've got a quality score of 4. So you need to pay £3 for that, plus 1 pence. And you've got your next competitor has an ad rank of 12. No, wait, did I just do that one? Yeah. Do you get the idea?
Yeah, there's no impact. There's no actual way of knowing your competitor's quality score. So you can't do.
No, you absolutely can't find your competitor's quality score, and you can't find out what they're paying. But there's a lot of assumptions to be made in certain products. So AdGuru is a product where they will give you an estimate of how much people are paying for some keywords. Even with the Google Keyword Planner tool, they will give you an estimate of how much a keyword should cost you. The keyword wedding planners, I'll continue my theme. It might say, for position 1, people are generally paying about £2. For position 2, they're paying about £1.50, and for position 3, they're paying about £1.
Is that what they're paying or what their max bid is?
Well, it's hard to say,
okay.
But it's Google saying, I think this is what people are paying.
Right.
So that if you want to be in position 1, and it says people are paying about £2, and you actually have to pay about £3, there's an element of Google just being wrong. but also it might be an element of your quality score. So if you've got a quality score of about 5 and you're paying £3, then you know that if you would increase that to 7 or 8, that you would probably be paying about that £2 rate. But yeah, it's difficult to see. There are tools to see, what keywords your competitors are on. Google gives you a bit of it, and then something like AdGuru or AdThena is another one. Hitwise does to a degree, see what keywords are driving traffic to competitor websites. But you don't know exactly what it is. Yeah, so to increase the ad rank, your two things are increase the bid. So you can absolutely, advertiser 4 can absolutely be in the first position. There's nothing stopping it except their own budget. Looking at this, they probably have to pay like, I don't know, 10 times as much, 10 times 8, so like £80 per click, but they could do it. It's just you get penalised heavily for that. But if you were to improve your quality score, so say advertiser 4 started getting a quality score of 4, so they've increased it 4 times, still not a very good quality score, but it's better. That makes them on par with advertiser 2. They would absolutely be in second position. But the main point is have good keywords, right? Good quality, relevant ads, and have good quality landing pages to send them to. These are some more calculations in case we didn't understand the first one, but I probably won't go through it. But you can always go through it at your own time. You can see here that you've got your max CPC, what your quality score is, the ad rank, and then it's probably doing a slightly different calculation. Anyway, this is all kind of theoretical. And then the CPC, it's the only cost when it's clicked. Okay, setting a bid. So we have a new example here, writing course. This is just to show you, kind of from my perspective, what do I look at when I'm setting a bid? So we kind of start with a base bid, and this might come from our Google tool. We might know a lot about this person. We might have said we want people who are 35 and above, people who are in London, or maybe not. Let me go through this. Okay, so we're starting with £1.10. Then we see that people from, I don't know how to say it, is it Norwich? I always say things wrong, and my husband's always like, no, it's, pronounced this other way. Embarrassing. Okay, we can see that people from Norwich are about 20% more likely to convert, which means that we want to be more prominent. So we're going to add 20% as a bid modifier. So lots of bid modifiers we can add to this base bid. So that's going to be plus, what, like 22p? You would have about £1.32 as your bid then. Then we look at time of day. Now we know that this person is looking at a Monday evening, and if we look here, Monday evenings. Evenings are really good for people looking for writing courses because that's what they do at night time. They think about where they can learn to write. So we're going to add 15%. Now we're going to look at the devices, and we can see mobile is not converting as well, which is one of our challenges. And for me, I would say take it with a grain of salt. It's probably more value than you can see, but for this person, they're very, very happy with the tracking. They've got that single view of the customer. And they're like, well, if it's evening and they're on a mobile, like they're not really going to convert. So I'm going to decrease by 25%. Then I'm looking at my cost per transaction. This person is 25 to 34, and you don't have to pay as much for them. That means people are more likely to convert when they're in that age bracket. So we're going to, again, increase 15% to our bid modifier. And then there's remarketing. So actually, we can tell that this person has visited the website before. And if they've visited before, we really want to show our ads. We absolutely want to be in the top position on their Google search. So we add a 45% increase. And then we look at all of that together, and we've got £1.87. So that's actually how much we are prepared to pay as a maximum for this ad, compared to our £1.10 that we started off with. So So there's lots of layering. Now you don't have to necessarily do all of this. You can just start with the max bid, but probably you'll be in position 2 or 3. You might not get the conversion as easily as you would if it was bidding higher, but you know, you could do it. Does that make sense?
Does that mean you then have not campaigns but bids going on, like £1.87 for Norwich Monday evening mobile 25 cents for past visit, and then a bid going on Leicester Monday evening mobile 25.30 for past visit, and then Coventry you go insane.
You can go insane, yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, I know what to do, but I just don't know how to get it all together.
Right.
Yeah, you can. And the way that you would do it is really you look at it rather than looking at it like this, because you can't just do that. You're not going to go, okay, if it's from Norwich, if it's Monday evening, like what do I do? You would take this view going back. So you would look at, okay, you might want to look at your different counties. You might want to go, you know, I want to bid a lot if it's Greater London, but it's kind of up north. They don't convert very well. They're not going to come to something that's held in London, so I'm going to decrease that. I'm going to decrease this one. You would sort of have a spreadsheet. You would break it all down, and then you would apply your bid modifier based on those counties.
So you have to sort of start from a strategic position rather than from like, I guess, you sort of say we're going to try and do this rather than.
You can do both.
Yeah.
You can do both. If you've got the data and you can use it, and there are ways to do it. I've got a whole other deck if you want to go into just how to set the device bid modifier and how you would look at like what your average CPA is overall versus the device, and what kind of uplift or down, what is the opposite is, of that device, and then you would calculate that bid modifier off the back of that per keyword. So there's a lot of data. Like you'd want to be good at Excel. But you follow the same method each time. You don't have to do all of this. Like you might just do a location thing. You might go, well, actually location has a big impact on these campaigns. So actually I really want to be working out how to up and down my bids. But you could go actually time of day. I mean, yeah, they evenings, but I don't want to stop showing them on Monday, on a Monday morning. Or yeah, you don't necessarily have to do all this. You can just start with the base, but you would just kind of look at each of them and look at where you get the most impact. You wouldn't do all this at once. Maybe in January or for the first quarter, you just look at your locations. March, you might look at your devices. You can test things during March. You know, maybe March you set them up. You do a test to see if I increase them or decrease them or change them. How does that work? How does it look? And there's ways that, and I'll go through, that you can do like a side-by-side test. So you can have like 50% of your campaign doing, you know, like a down 25% decrease. And you can have the other half doing like no decrease, or maybe upweight by 20%. And you can see how does that have that knock-on effect at the end. So yeah, there's a lot of data that you can use, but then you can also use common sense. The problem with common sense is that sometimes it's not what you expect. So if you were looking at what people who are most likely to buy toys, kids' toys, 50% of those people are in childless households. So if you went, parents buy kids' toys, I'm just going to focus on parents, and you can exclude non-parents from your Google searches. Half your target market, your unexpected target market. So it's just if you've got the data to use it. Okay, so components of a campaign. We've got our keywords, and there's lots of different types of keywords. On the funnel, and get much more specific, you've got a decrease in volume, but you've got an increase in value. People who say that they want to create a writing course are going to be more valuable than people who are just looking for training courses or evening classes or something like that. So there's lots of different levels, but we generally break it up into 3, which I'll go through later. Copy. So this is for car insurance. Oh yeah, there is a So the keyword you want to be prominently, you can see in all of these examples, car insurance is very prominent. You would like an offer if you've got one, so 51% could save up to £221 is a pretty enticing offer. And you can see that their position one. Here we've got 50% could save up to £230, which is slightly more enticing, but not as good quality wise. Starting down there, call to action. So you should tell people what you want them to do. It's like sign up now, get a quote, book a course, buy something. Generally we have, like a feature and a benefit at the start of an ad, and at the very end of the ad, it's like, what do you want me to do? But you can't be as literal as click here because that's not allowed. Extended headline. So in this example, Google has extended the headline with the URL. They do that automatically. That's one of those automatic ad extensions, but there have been changes to our ad text limitations and basically the whole format, which means that we will now get 2 headlines that we can control. So yeah, make use of it. And I guess this third example is kind of how it could look. Compare up to 126 quotes. Google had a thing that they would sometimes take the first line of the description and put it up.
URL beneath in green.
This one?
Yeah, that doesn't actually have to be the proper URL, right? That is just like that's like a site that you can write.
Yeah.
/ creative writing courses are for great people. .html, even if the
to a degree, yeah.
What you click through to is not that.
Yeah, I mean there are always limitations with what you can do, but the domain has to be the same. So it has to say confused.com. It can't say like go compare when it goes to the confused.com landing page. There are limitations in the number of characters you get. It used to be the whole thing was 35 characters, 25 characters. The whole thing had to be 25 characters. Now it's 2 paths of about, you've got to know this, 15 characters each. It's changed. Yeah, these bits here, where it says car insurance, they all say car insurance, probably. They don't say car insurance in their actual landing page. It's just a representation. And you can have the www, but you don't need to as well. So there's lots you can do. And extensions, basically use them. But we'll go through them in much more detail here. So in the pink, which you can just see, that's what they're all called. So the top ones are seller ratings, which are a manual and an automatic extension. They're basically an automatic extension because I can't say, yes, I want it to show, no, I don't want it to show. But I do have to opt into something like FIFO that you have to pay for people to review your site, and then you have to connect it up to Google. And then you get to see your ratings. Your ad won't show if your rating is less than, I think, 3.7. It's changed around, but basically it'll only show if it's a good rating. The only potential problem is that if someone has a better rating, so if you're 3.7 and your competitor is 4.5, then maybe you don't want it to show. You've got review extensions, so that is a manual one, and John Lewis won an award from MoneyWise. That MoneyWise bit will click to a web page confirming the award, but basically you can have whatever you want about that award in that extension. You've got site links, which can be these big kind of mini ads, or they can just be the top line. You might set it up as a mini ad or the top line if you don't have a high enough quality score. So quality score plays a factor in how much space or how many of these ad extensions Google will allow. Call out extensions, these are all manual. So we have about 25 characters that we can put 3 or 4 little just call outs, just little things that are good. So it might be 24/7 service or free delivery or what have you. Structured snippets. It's where you would kind of list what features you have. So if you're a hotel, you could say parking, you could say concierge, double rooms, ensuite rooms, all of those sort of features. And this one, they've got lots of different rental options. And then you've got your location extensions. So it can tell you about your time of your opening hours, or a contact number, or it can be like your actual location. Oh, and down here, which is not hard, you click to call. And Google have just released, it's come out of beta yesterday, I think, or I heard that it came out of beta yesterday. There's a click to message as well. So you can basically text someone, but it works exactly the same way. You click it, it kind of opens up like a chatbot type thing, and you can do that. And then your landing pages. So here we can see Enterprise Car Hire London, and then you've got Enterprise Car Hire London in your ad copy, and then in your landing page, it's about car hire specifically in London by Enterprise. So having them all matched up is going to be a good user experience because people don't have to go, oh, I'm at this landing page, like the home page. How do I find specifically the London bit? You take them exactly there. Highly relevant, merchandised, a clear call to action. So this one has book and save today with Enterprise. That's what they want you to do. They want you to book and they want you to save. And easy to navigate. And then the purchase funnel. So purchase funnel is useful as a mindset. It's not necessarily how people work now. People jump around a lot. They jump between devices all the time. But if we think about what kind of marketing we would do at each of these stages, we have awareness. Now, Google is not usually used as an awareness tool because it's a pull metric, so people have to say, I want this thing. Snickers have done a very good campaign. I don't know if you've seen it with misspelled keywords. They took 2,500 misspelled keywords and bid specifically on them, just on those keywords. So business is an example that I do have in another slide. And if you typed business incorrectly, it would then show an ad saying, did you mean business spelled correctly? And then say, you're not you when you're hungry, buy Snickers. So there's lots of different ways that people, I think charities have used it as well. I've seen someone going and donate a vowel or donate something for a charity or something. There's ways you can do it. It tends to be around misspellings, but there's probably other really good ways. Familiarity. So when people know about you, so say people know about Amex and they want a bank card, they might search for Amex, but they need to click on your ad if they trust you. So the way to go about trusting you is to be honest and open, but to have ratings. People don't necessarily trust experts as much as they used to. They really like user ratings. So if you've got them, that's going to help you. Considerations, so be specific. The search term was flights to Tallinn from London. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it says London, Tallinn, it's got a price, and then it's got who it's by. It's also got the ratings, so it's matching everything up together. Make it easy to purchase. This is a contact information from, I think this is from your website. But you don't want to overload people with like 20 pages or 20 boxes to type in their information. Just keep it really specific so that people can find it easy to convert. And then loyalty, keep in touch, usually through Facebook. So those are all the stages, and they lend themselves to different channels, but it's also lending themselves to different types of keywords, different types of copy. You know, if you're in the familiarity page, you might just want to sell the benefits of your company, but if you're getting down to the consideration of the purchase stages, you want to make it actionable. If you want to make them, you know, do it now, maybe the course starts next week, or maybe the sale ends in a couple of days. And then remarketing, which to go through how it works as kind of intro, there's a bit more on this down the track, but a visitor comes to your site. Now they can come through anyway. Really, when they get to your site, that's when they're tracked and that's when the remarketing starts. So ways they can come to your website are through your organic search, through just your general social media, like your page. You might just do a post on that. Maybe they've got a newsletter from you. Maybe they've seen a video, whatever it is. It can be paid search. It can be any of these over here, paid search, display video, but they come to your site. You drop a cookie on their page, on their top. When they leave, then you can remarket them through other means. So you can remarket to them when they're searching on Google. You can remarket to them when they're looking at a video. You might know that they've seen one video, so you want to remarket to them with the next video, make kind of a sequential thing. You can obviously remarket PPC, paid social. You can follow them around on the website as much as you want, but probably you should be careful about not following them too much because it can get annoying. So when you're remarketing, you have to be very mindful about frequency caps and duration. They are two things. Because I know that Amazon do it to me quite a lot. They remarket me.
All the time.
I mean, from their point of view, it probably works. They probably get an increase of sales. So yeah, because my husband and I share an Amazon Prime, and he was looking for like squat racks. And I think for like 2 weeks it was showing me these ads of squat racks, and I didn't know he'd been looking at them. And we live in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment, so I'm like, where did you think you were going to put this? What are you thinking? So I mean, that's a very good example of cross-device remarketing as well, because he never used my laptop. He never uses my phone. He was on his computer. So yeah, especially if you're doing something sensitive, like, I don't know, a jewelry store, you would need to be careful of the remarketing that you do, and have your demographics all kind of sorted out and make sure that it was only to the men if it was an engagement ring section or something. But yeah, so that's basically what remarketing is in a nutshell. There's so many ways you can do it. You can slice and dice. You can have people who have just visited your website. You can have people who have been to a certain page. You can have remarket people who have converted, so people who have actually signed up or who people started signing up but not finished. There's so many different ways, right down to people who have spent more than 3 minutes on your site or reached more than 5 pages on your site, or who have come from Facebook and seen more than 5 pages from your site. So there's so many ways.
Can you pass pixels between domains? Like if someone comes to favour.co.uk, can we, as Favour Academy, remarket? So if we were to want to.
It's a good question, and I think that you can.
If we're sort of parent child company.
You can share remarketing lists. So if you had the same AdWords account, and if we're just talking about Google and AdWords for now, and someone has come through the academy, and then so you create a remarketing list of people. So it's all this group of cookies, also called a cookie pool. You can apply, that's what display people call it a lot of the time. I know this from my display team. Take that list and apply it to, so what do you call the other one? The book?
Yeah, favour.co.uk.
Okay, yeah. You can apply it to your book campaign. So you can definitely sync it up. What you can't do is if you don't own something necessarily. But basically you can remarket from anywhere that you can stick a cookie on. So if you did a deal with like The Guardian or something, I don't know, they were promoting something and you wanted to remarket people who had seen an article about Favour on The Guardian, as long as The Guardian are happy to put a piece of tracking code on their website, on that page, then you can remarket, you will get that cookie pool and you can remarket them.
That's really interesting.
There's a lot of good things you can do. I know when I worked in Chanel, we used to do that kind of thing. We had bloggers, and they had talked about a particular product. So say it was their like mascara. Then we would remarket to those people who have been reading that blog about how good the mascara is. We didn't sell on the website, but it was a very immersive experience on getting them, involved in the brand. And there's lots of ways that you can do it. Like going back to that, if someone had bought mascara, then we can remarket to them with perfume, and then if they bought perfume, we can remarket to them with clothes, and you try and move someone up that kind of chain.
So we could technically, for Favour, if someone goes to the Anatomy of the Soul, if we got a particular book and we make a microsite for it, we put the tracking pixel in the microsite, and then we can remarket when the paperback comes out across their Google experience.
Yeah.
We can be remarketing the paperback.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can do the same in Facebook. If you've got a pixel on the page, and then you can remarket when they're on Facebook again about like a new book that's come out. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, it can be overwhelming with all the ways you can slice and dice it. So it's very good to think of the user journey, and think about like where you want to move people from and to. Think about that kind of stage in a customer life cycle, rather than thinking about what you can do on your website. Because a lot of the time you go, okay, people who've interacted with Faber, and then you just kind of chunk them all in, where you've got people who have just been to the homepage versus people who have signed up for a course. They can be all lumped in. Definitely breaking that down is good. But there are also minimum thresholds. So I think that you again need about 1,000 cookies before the list will actually start showing. So while it's good to be specific, not to be too specific is the key. It's about finding the sweet spot.
If there were, say, we had, for a specific example, if 1,020 people visited the page for a novel by an author who was a tutor on our courses, we collect those visits, and then remarket the course with that person to the people who visited the page for the book.
Yeah, and you can have the same tag, so it doesn't have to be just this page, this one page. You can remarket from like 3 different pages all into the same cookie pool, and then so it could be people who, if the author had written 3 books, and so he's got 3 different pages, or the 3 different book pages, then you can combine that and remarket.
Where does Data Protection Act and what obligations to the consumer come into that, and what should one be aware of?
It's a good question. Privacy is always very important to Google. In terms of remarketing, there's 2 methods, and we'll go into this a little bit more down the track, hopefully, but definitely make sure that I've answered all of your questions. The method is cookies, and then the other method is matching people. It's called customer match, or it's called custom audiences in Facebook. Now, if you're just using the cookie method, I cannot see this individual user. I don't know who they are. They are just a pool of random people who I know something about. I know that they've been on this page. So Google will never give me any more information than that.
In that case, you're saying it's not our data to breach, in a sense, or that would be covered, whether, I don't know if it still applies, that EU regulation saying a website needs to say this site uses cookies, and you've got
so
the principle of a website owner informing its users that there are cookies on that site. That would be the extent of the...
and I think that's very commonplace now. You see it all the time. It's, so in that respect, that's fine. The other option, which is customer match, is where you give Google information about your customers. Now, the way that you can upload those are hashed emails, so Google can't actually see that list. So privacy is super important in that respect. Google will also sign a contract outlining everything with a company if you needed to. I think they tend to do that for very big brands who just need something solid and legal. But basically, I mean, we know I will never see those email addresses. It's not like you export an email address list, because that would be unsafe. That would not be private. You can basically connect to the system. So a group of people go into the system unnamed, just like the cookie pool, really.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll move on from this if everyone's happy. But definitely, when it comes up again, today or tomorrow, whenever it is, ask more questions if you have it, because it's a big topic and we could probably talk about it for hours. So I want to make sure it's all covered. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like in a walled garden such as Google. So Google not being just search, there's lots of different ways that you can move your information around. So if someone's interacted with your channel or just a particular video, you can remarket to them in most other Google properties. Google search, I've got Bing there, but you can't really remarket across Bing unless you use a third-party tool like DoubleClick. If they come through the display network, you can remarket them when they're on Google, vice versa. If they've installed an app, you can take those people and you can remarket to them. And then you've also got Gmail ads, which again, you can remarket to and from. Someone has been to your website or purchased a book, you can, or even you can remarket with Gmail ads. Oh, actually, that's not even remarketing, it's just Gmail. I was going to say, if they've got newsletters from your competitors, you can share with Gmail ads, but that's not remarketing. So yeah, you can do basically from and to lots of different properties. One thing one way I like to do it is if we have YouTube ads and people watch more than 30 seconds of it, then if they were searching on Google, I really want to prioritize those people because I know that they've taken the time to watch 30 seconds of an ad, which is something. Okay, we're near the end of this module, but just kind of summing up and putting together a set of strategies. So there are two types of strategies. Usually there's always on, which is also called BAU, business as usual. And then tactical, which is, always on is always on. It's just what you'd have, anytime someone's looking for a writing course. But then you might have specific courses that aren't always on, or a book that, has just been released, but you only want to promote it for like the first month or two. That would be a tactical campaign. And then just a couple of stats thrown in here. 71% of consumers expect leading brands to be a top result. That is significant because if you are, a lot of people say, well, I rank organically. I'm already at the top of the organic. Why do I need a paid search? If you have an ad in both sections, people think you're more likely to be a leader. Or if your ad is in position 1 versus position 2, they think that in that position 1, they're the leader because they're higher.
Does something, if you get top paid ad and people are ticking on that ad, does that affect your organic search?
No, it doesn't.
Ranking?
No, organic search is, the ranking there is made up of a whole other sort of things. It's to do with what keywords are on the landing page, the way the site is structured, but then it also takes into account backlinks. So how many other websites are linking to that page or that website. So they kind of have their own quality score. Page rank is what it used to be called. I think it's still called that. But it is different. So what you do in paid search should never affect how your SEO is ranking. That's what Google tells us. I don't know what our SEO team think about that. I'm pretty sure that stands. 56% of people say that search reminds them of brands they know of but didn't think of. So you might go, okay, well, I know Amex. And then Nationwide might come up as an ad. And then you go, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. But now I remember that they had a really good deal on a credit card that I saw. So, had Nationwide not been there, they might not have been considered. And 71% of surveys found that new brands and people found, people find new brands and companies via search. So a lot of the time people go into Google not knowing exactly, like finance is different. People tend to have an idea of what banks they want to be associated with, but travel, people might not know where they want to book their flights from. They might not even know where they want to travel to. So there's a lot of research and being there at all stages can influence that decision. Now the planning process. This is like a third of another module, but in summary, starting with your KPIs, knowing what you want. So if you really just want people to sign up or to buy something, maybe you don't spend a lot of money on the awareness. Maybe you spend a bit of money there because you need to have people know who you are. But just knowing what the end goal is going to dictate how you set it up and how you run your campaign. Then looking at the different platforms. So I said before that Google has the lion's share, but then you've got Yahoo and Bing. If you're targeting an older demographic or you've got a very competitive environment, then definitely look at Yahoo and Bing. They tend to be a lot cheaper, a lot less competitive. A lot of advertisers forget to even go on Bing. I know myself, I sometimes have to write myself notes if I'm talking about a new campaign setup. It's like, remember Bing, like also, and Bing. Because they just don't seem that present. Google are always around and being less likely to, but just knowing where the difference is good. Integration with wider media, so search is just one piece of the puzzle, and understanding how everything works together. If you've got a good holistic campaign and you're hitting people across various touch points, whether that's offline, print, if you've got a certain message to market in like a print magazine, to have a similar message or something that kind of, is in the same vein online is going to make that stand out. It's going to reinforce that concept. Having your reach versus your target audience and knowing who your customer is really important. If you know that people who buy your courses are generally quite older, then maybe you don't want to go after something that's very focused on millennials. But you might see the vice versa. So people might be millennials, don't talk to them too professionally, or keep with their language. Something. Lots of different formats and placements. So this is screenshot is it Facebook? I think it's Facebook. It is Facebook. You've got different types of ads. You've got your different ad extensions. Knowing how that works, and then definitely a budget. So if you've got say £1,000 to spend a month, then you wouldn't want to go with an all-out campaign of generic keywords and mid-funnel and lower funnel. You probably want to stay lower and then maybe up to middle to get the best out of the budget that you've got. Similarly, you've got lots of money, you don't want to just be really, really focused. And then optimizing and allocating spend. So understanding your devices. Basically, however much money you've got to spend, you want to put it where the results are first. So while I say mobile is great and does give you a lot of value, if you find that desktop is where all your conversions are coming in and you test mobile, you don't see an increase in conversions, then maybe you do leave it off. Maybe you do downweight it. You need to test that. Prioritize the converting locations. Push your budgets when it's a peak season. So again, we'll go into it more, but for Faber, January, February was a bigger season than most. For writing courses specifically, that was the biggest, but Faber also had another peak around September. So just knowing where that is, because if you just say, well, we're going to spend £10,000 every month and we don't account for that, then you're going to have a lower share of voice in a month where it's potentially more important to be there. So make sure that you know when it goes up and down. Again, with the days of the week. So maybe people are more likely to convert on a Saturday and a Sunday. If you run out of your budget, if you could spend much more, then maybe take that budget from Monday and put it into Saturday or vice versa. Allocate budgets per product type. Yeah, I guess if you've got like a high margin campaign or a high margin product, that's where you want to put your budget. You could sell tons of stuff at a low margin, but if your costs, your keyword costs and everything outweigh that, then that's probably not the best use of it. So start where it's bigger. And then prioritize top performers. So a lot of the time we have a top performing campaign. And there's all those keywords that work really well for us all the time. And that's where you get 100% share of voice. You want to spend as much money as you can in your top performing campaigns, and you don't want to restrict it by budget. And have a testing plan. Always test. So some technology that we use some of the time, and there's so much you can get for free or just through Google, but a lot of the stuff we use in an agency, AdGuru is definitely a good one for competitive analysis. You can see what your competitors' ads are. They sort of scrape Google all the time. And then they give you the kind of keywords that people are on. You can see of the keywords that are important to you, your reach and your frequency. So how high a position you are compared to your competitors and how often you show compared to your competitors. So I guess going back to Amex, if they might be showing position 1, but they might be showing 50% of the time, whereas Barclays might be showing position 2, but they're showing 100% of the time. So knowing where you stand in that overall marketplace. And it's also good to find new competitors when they enter the market and see kind of what the landscape is. Hitwise is very, very expensive, but it's very good because AdGuru is scraping what it sees in Google, whereas Hitwise is populated using IPs. So they buy the data straight from the IP and then they kind of sort it out, and then they show you, so you can see exactly what keywords are driving people to a website, not just how many times something is being shown and how much we assume the traffic is going to the website, but what's actually happening. You know, there's when I worked at Hitwise, like a long time ago, Facebook wasn't out then. Well, it wasn't very popular, and it became popular as I worked there. And it created a lot of problems because people started switching between browsers, so that IP can't necessarily tell where your browser is, like which browser you're on. So it makes the pathway harder, but you know that you're getting proper data there. And then the last one I'll pick out too. DoubleClick Search is a third-party platform. It's a bid management platform owned by Google. As fast as Google innovates, they're pretty much the only one that I know of that can keep up, because they know what's coming ahead of time and they can plan for it. But they are basically the industry standard if you were to have a bid management tool. And it's also good if you're running like lots of different channels. So you've got your display, you've got Facebook, you've got YouTube, you've got Google. Every system that you use, every advertising system is going to think that they got a conversion if they can't see the other tools. They don't speak to each other. So the Facebook platform doesn't speak to the Google platform. So if someone goes to Facebook and then they go to Google and then they convert, both of them are going to say you've got one conversion. So you're double counting. So DoubleClick is very good for bringing everything into the same system and deduping. It's got the same tag across all of your different marketing, and then it will say, okay, well, actually, Facebook should get some recognition depending on your attribution model. Again, we'll talk about it later. It should say Facebook helped, but Google was pretty much responsible for this conversion, not for them.
We have enormously long sort of decision-making paths to reverse. We have sort of 12, 15-step paths that Steve have shown me the thing before, like our funnel is very shallow walled. So those sorts of things are really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
18-month decision-making channels that we can see go down the line to a £100 purchase. Infuriating.
Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's one thing it's really good for. And the last thing I was going to point out was Google Analytics is perfect for that as well. And that's where you would have seen the data. And you can do a lot of that kind of stuff in Google Analytics as well. Like you've got your Google Analytics tags and they can marry up all of your different sources together. So yeah, there's lots of...
What does Stake use?
Stake uses, we always use Google Analytics. DoubleClick we use for the clients that like it. So if clients are running a lot of different channels, either with us or with other agencies, DoubleClick is definitely our go-to provider. We have used Adobe for a client. Basically, we use whatever our client wants us to. Adobe is less intuitive than DoubleClick. So the client that did use Adobe has now moved. We actually had 2 clients transitioning over. One from DC Storm and the other one from Adobe onto DoubleClick. Myself, we don't use Experian. We don't use Hitwise here, but I mean, I did use it at my last one. AdGuru we do use, probably not as much as we should. There's so much data that we don't have time to analyze it all. But Kenshu and Athena, and I don't think anyone at Stake uses it. Although, like at my last company, we did use it. So it's just dictated by the clients. E-consultancy is, I don't even know what technology. I don't know why that's there. Actually, I read their blogs, but that's it. Yes, that's technology. That's probably a mistake. I didn't create this stuff. Cool. So we talked about this before, but the pull versus the push metrics. So search is pull. Social media is kind of pull. It's more push, but it's a little bit more pull at the end to maybe, if you say, I like this page, I like this company, then they are asking for you to give them messages, as opposed to I've got social media as a push there when you're just, I didn't ask to be advertised to by someone who's, using interest targeting and has found out that I'm a mum and wants to advertise things about kids to me. That's not what I asked for, but if I had signed up to like a mum's product, I don't know, Huggies or something, and they had ads or they had a message, then I've asked to have that message. Push TV is definitely push outdoors, push press, display, and here. Stuff you didn't ask for, but hopefully if it's done right, it's still good. And then paid social. So there are a lot of different paid social platforms. Facebook is the go-to one. So if I was going to advertise, if I tell you I'm doing search and social, I'm doing Google and Facebook, pretty much. And when my friends don't know what PPC or social media, well, they know what social media are, but they don't understand my job, I say, I advertise on Google and Facebook. So it's good for just kind of mass market. It is what everyone is on. Twitter is really good when you have an event. So my example is that Amex used to sponsor a lot of red carpet events. So we would go to Twitter, we'd have someone on the red carpet and they'd be tweeting and they'd be, having real-time updates about what's happening right there in the moment. Pinterest is really good for planning. 80% of pins are brand-led with Pinterest. I think it's really underutilized, but I think it's great because if you think of Facebook and Twitter, if you see a post, that post, you won't see that again tomorrow. Like that post is gone. You might not see it in an hour. But Pinterest, you have a board and you're saying, okay, I want to stick this here. And that pin probably is in your mind or somewhere that you might see for about 3 months on average, they say. So I want to plan or work out something and saying, okay, it's kind of like a bookmark. So I think that Pinterest is really good, especially for anyone who's doing remarketing or any sort of shopping or that kind of thing. YouTube can be a very social platform. It's video, but it's also social because you can share videos, you can like them just the same way as you can with Facebook. It's great for awareness. It is my go-to for awareness because it's so cheap. To advertise a video, you can pay about 4 or 5 pence per view, per person waiting for 30 seconds. So if you think about all the time, people skip after 20 seconds. They have to watch the first 5. Those are free impressions right there that people are engaged. They're waiting to find something. And also if they're just clicking around to watch videos of cats, they're probably happy to watch you ad if it's good. LinkedIn, very good for B2B. B2B is notoriously hard to advertise to. So LinkedIn is the one for them. Instagram, if you've got anything that's really lovely or pretty or very consumer, like clothes, is very good for Instagram because you can get that immersive experience like you can with YouTube, but with pictures. And then Google Plus. I've never used it to advertise on, but it's there. Google used to really push it, and now I think they've just gone, okay, it didn't work. Oh, I have what social platform is missing. Who can tell me that? Think millennials.
Snapchat.
Yes. Prize for you.
Thank you for a prize.
Prizes.
Yeah.
Prizes for everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, Snapchat. So to be a millennial one, they've just released stats last week, and they say 44% of their user base are parents. Parents can be millennials too. Technically, I'm a millennial, a very old one, and I'm a mum.
So remind me what the definition of a millennial is.
Anyone who was born after 1980. Yeah. So you think of millennials as being like teenagers. I'm not Snapchat. I'm not on the user base. But I am technically the target market. So 44% are parents and 70% are over 70 or 77% are over 18. So they are older than you would expect. And Snapchat is becoming more and more present. They are really growing. They used to be just a way for people to send pictures, but now they're very much, they talk about themselves as a camera-led thing. You don't put text on, you just, you make stories, you send pictures of yourself. Anyone who's really concerned about privacy kind of moves to Snapchat because it's immediate, but then it's gone. It doesn't come back to haunt you. Maybe when you're older and looking for jobs or something like that. So yeah, they are changing their offering a lot. And there's something that, like, working in advertising, anytime I have an opportunity to see Snapchat present, I go, oh, I'd like to go. I've seen them a few times, but I'm a bit intrigued. It's sort of this black box of stuff that I don't necessarily use, but probably I should. Cool. So looking at the purchase funnel, so we've got awareness. Social ads generally come in at interest level, and paid search ads are a bit more research and further down the track. Target social based on interest, but you can also use your CRM data. So we talked about email addresses before. You can use people's names and their phone numbers as well to create a specific audience on Facebook specifically. And again, when I talk about paid social, I am generally mostly talking about Facebook. It's just good to know what is there. Third-party data, there's lots of different ways that you can target someone on social, because they know so much about you. They know what your name is. You pretty much have to put your real name in. They're paid search ads, so you've obviously got your keywords, you've got your cookies, and you've got the first-party data.
How long how long a line can that be? How long a time can that be? I'm thinking that we for the academy specifically, we'll be looking at having sort of surge campaigns in September and January, where we would run sort of Facebook ads, probably via a company, and then do for how long can that information be useful for our normal PPC management throughout the rest of the year? Would it make sense to sort of try and search for garnering those pixels and then sort of remarket or be paid for the rest of the year through that? Or would you be needing to do these things alongside each other?
No, you can definitely have a knock-on effect. I mean, it depends on the client. Yeah. Some clients, some things are, like cars, they're a longer consideration funnel versus, a piece of clothing can be very seasonal, very like immediate.
So like someone's asking in September for the following October, they're thinking, they're going to quit their job in June and then they're going to go to India and then they're going to come back and they're thinking about things to do. We might not have a product for them then, but we might be interested in remarketing to them next August.
Yeah, and you can absolutely do that. I mean, I think Google have sort of recently done some studies. I might be able to dig it out. Let me, on effect, it's more effect of brand advertising on the long term. Okay. But basically it says, and it's talking about more upper funnel, but I think it's the same if someone's interacted with your brand. They say that knock-on effect can last about 3 to 6 months, where it will, if you've interacted with them and not even remarketing, just them remembering and coming back of their own accord, that can be a really long time. And that's something that you can't really quantify through your tools, because a lot of post 3 months, a lot of your look back windows for your tracking tags will only last about 3 months. It can last longer depending on the system. It can be anywhere between 30 or 120 days. Google, I think their remarketing can go up to 320 days. But if you've got them if you've got them remarketing wise in a cookie sense, or if you've got their email addresses, you can do a seasonal campaign. You can put it back in and you can go, okay, well, we know this about you. Like, you've asked about this thing. Now we want to tell you that we have that. A good way to re-engage with people like that is, I mean, if you were to have a newsletter that you sent to them, and then to have that same message amplified across Facebook, because that's kind of that push metric, and then have a similar message, or be aware that those people could then go and search for more information in Google. But connecting all of these different mediums together and kind of having a holistic view. And then SEO. So away from paid search, how PPC and SEO work really well together. And this is traditionally, when I worked at Airwise, SEO, those were the two main platforms, because if you imagine that you've got a really good PPC campaign, but your landing page is terrible, well, the people there, and they won't do anything there. But if you've got a really good SEO strategy, what is good for search engines is pretty much good for users. And I think the main point of anyone who's looking at SEO. There used to be all these black hat methods of keyword stuffing and having this, a certain keyword density on your page, or having certain things in your headings, or trying to game the system is never going to work. Because I don't know if you hear about how often Google changes its algorithm. There's like the penguin update and the panda update and all sorts of different animals and their updates. And people who game the algorithm get found out and they drop their rankings. So basically, the best approach for SEO is to do what is user friendly, which is going to help your PPC. So they work very well hand in hand. And then what else is there aside from search? So the GDN, Google Display Network, which is the other side of search. You want to amplify your campaign beyond just what they're searching for. If you know someone has been to your website and it's through your search campaign, you can follow them around a little bit on other web pages. But you can, not doing remarketing, you can just advertise to people if you know that they've got a certain topic or interest. If interest has different levels. So there's the affinity, which is I like cars, I like expensive cars, versus in market, which is I want to buy an expensive car. So you can imagine that most people don't want to buy an expensive car right now. They don't have the means to, but they like to just hear about them. So if you're someone who sells expensive cars, then you probably want to have, you might want to have a bit of affinity targeting of the interest, but you really want to put all your money in market. And that in market is by using the search behavior that Google can see. 4 hours, you've got signals that are purchase signals. So you're on price comparison sites. You're really finding out your specs and really nitty gritty stuff that tells Google, yes, I want to buy something, rather than just looking at general blogs. I know my husband always looks at like watch blogs, but he's not in the market to buy a really fancy watch. So he would be the affinity person.
It's really relevant to books. A lot of people have an affinity with books and they're not necessarily in their activity looking to buy them. It's interesting.
Yeah, so that definitely, and you don't know that people might have been to like Book World or Waterstones or something like that, and you can't target those people. But if you've got in-market advertising, and it's something that you can only do through the display network, you can't do it through search. But if Google can see that they've been on those websites, they know that they've got they're in market, so it will show your ads to them. Absolutely. Placement. So placement is you saying I want to advertise on this page. So I want to only advertise on YouTube or The Guardian or what have you. Contextual, so which is pretty much topics, saying I want to be on a page that is about this topic. So interest is being I want a person who likes. This topic is I want to be on a page about books. So there's that difference. And then you've got your remarketing audiences, which you can pull from video, you can pull from Google. And then you've got a lot more ad formats to play with. So you can put your text ads right on the Google Display Network, but you can also use image ads. There's certain rich media ads that you can use. Lightbox ads is kind of an expandable video ad, and it's not just one video, but you can sort of create it so that you've got maybe 3 ad videos, or some videos and some pictures, or even a map if you want. So that's a lot more customizable. And then you've just got your standard video ads. This is kind of going into what we just talked about with the affinity segments, but you're making it more specific, and you've got your everybody, and then you can have something about their demographics, and then you've got their affinity. This person is affinity with shopping or beauty, but then they've in market to purchase jeans, and then you're remarketing them. If they've put something in a cart but they haven't bought it, then you can remarket that. You've got video and YouTube. So YouTube has a lot of different ad formats. It's about 6 different ones. But the 2 main ones are called Insert. They do change these names a lot. So you might see this one called Discover, Insert, or In Display. But basically it's using YouTube as a search engine, where you've got an ad server that's very similar to Google. You have keywords that you bid on, all that stuff. It's still very cheap. It's much cheaper than Google. And then you've got in-stream, which is where they play it before the content that you are really wanting to watch. There's a few different ways you can do it, but can you see on the right-hand side, there's boxes, which it doesn't exactly look like that, but similar to that, you can put cards. So if you've got a product, so if you've got a video about the certain book, and you can have cards overlay on the right-hand side where people can click and then they can go straight to purchase a book. So there's lots of different things that you can overlay it with, download an app from it, or there's shopping, or lots of different ways. And then there's a companion banner that kind of goes up the top, which is like a normal display ad. And then there's Google Preferred, which is exactly like this skippable ad on the right, but it's not skippable. It's 30 seconds, and you see it sometimes from bigger brands, and they force you to watch it. You really want to skip after 5 seconds, but you can't. They pay a lot more to be there. And that is only going to be shown on the top 5% of content for YouTube. So whatever's the most liked, shared, or watched content. If Google will only let you not skip an ad for 30 seconds. If you give them a piece of content that's 40 seconds, then you have to pay every single time there's an impression, but people can skip it after 5 seconds just as usual. So you would only want to use it for 30 seconds or below. But this is only good if you really, really want to get something out there and force people to use it, and it's not something we use a lot. The product listing ads. I don't know if this would be useful for the books at all, or if you've tried it. It's not something that we run for you at the moment, as far as I know. But it's using a feed. It's exporting a feed from your website. Your ads will show 4 keywords, but we don't say what the keywords are. Google works it out with its algorithm based on what you put in that feed and what your descriptions are, what your headlines are. So there's a lot of ways to, it's not a simple process to take the feed and to put it into Google. There are whole companies that we use that take that feed and they optimize it and they manage it, and then we put it into Google. We do it through something called the Google Merchant Center. And then we upload it and then we connect it to AdWords. And then you see these shopping ads, which are on desktop. They can scroll on mobile, and you can click through and you can see just your page of shopping ads. And then Gmail ads. So the way that Gmail ads work is if you've got Gmail in your, does everyone have Gmail? Okay, there's no one who hasn't seen these?
That company.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, but you don't see ads in that because
is it
paid because
it's on the Outlook?
Pardon?
Do you use Outlook? Or?
No, our
No,
company
it's apps for business.
Okay.
email is Gmail.
Oh.
It's surely everyone uses Gmail for their personal, right?
Well-
You're driven out anyone who doesn't.
You'd be surprised because I've talked to people about this before, and they're like, "Oh, is that what it looks like? Oh no, I use like Hotmail or something, or I don't know, something random." In which case, I'm kind of like, "Why?" But yeah, well, it's good that everyone knows Gmail and has seen this. But yeah, so the ads there at the top. But when they expand, there's
I have Gmail and Yahoo.
Does your Yahoo also
Mine
does. I used to
I
have
have
Yahoo.
people who start learning from my Yahoo.
And
I'm sitting here like thinking it's my sleeve. I have a personal email too.
But some people don't have Gmail at all.
Sorry? Yeah,
Some people don't.
thank you.
I mean, I do have a Yahoo. I have a Yahoo email address, and my Yahoo one, because I started with Apple so long ago, so, and I don't know how to change it. I've tried a couple of times, and I don't know, it's not working. So I've forwarded. I never go into my Yahoo one, but sometimes, like once every 2 years, I might, and then I'm like, oh, this is interesting. We've got like all of these random.
all your GeoCities alerts.
The spam is terrible in Yahoo.
Yeah, the spam is awful.
But I actually started off with Hotmail, and they kept deleting my account because I didn't go into it often enough. So the Yahoo one, at least they let you stick around.
Yeah, they do. They're desperate for you, aren't they?
I appreciate it. It's got like my full, because that was my maiden name, so it's a long one. But yeah, when you, I don't know if anyone's actually clicked on these Gmail ads. I certainly don't usually, but it's a bespoke. It's kind of like display, in that it's a bespoke kind of email that you can have. It's cross-device. You can target using keywords, just like normal Google, using competitors. So if you've got a competitor and they also sell books, I don't know, maybe it's Waterstones, and you want to target anyone who's on their mailing list, then you can do that. And that's probably our favorite way of targeting because it works really well. And then you've got your remarketing as usual. You've also got, one thing I haven't spoken about with remarketing is similar audiences. So you've got people who are in your cookie pool, or you've got their addresses. I will use this term. I see you like, yep, the cookie pool. You've got those people, but you maybe don't want to sell them a course or a book because they've already bought it. So with similar audiences, and this is another cookie pool that Google automatically creates, and they say it's at least 5 times as big, and it's based on other people's search history, their demographics, all sorts of attributes that are similar with your customers, and they're probably the best people to start prospecting from. They haven't bought your product yet. They really like people who have. So that is also a good way to start, rather than just kind of going big. If you were trying to create awareness and you don't want to just be on a keyword like books, maybe you're on a keyword like books targeted to people who are similar to your customers. These are just an example of the different ads that you can put on Gmail. So you've got standard HTML, you can put a video in there, you can get them to fill out a form, there's click to call, there's all sorts of things. And then just a bit about universal app campaigns, because apps are becoming more and more prominent. But they're basically a campaign that we can set up to drive downloads to an app. We can also target it on engagement, so if you want someone to purchase something in the app, you can try and find people who not just download it but actually purchase. But your app ad can show on YouTube, it can show on Google, it can show just like a display campaign, it can show in other apps in their ads, and it can show on the Play Store. So there's lots of ways you can promote an app. Okay, so this is basically the end. The key takeaways are that search is highly trackable. You can get incremental traffic outside of Google. Search is an auction relevancy, so those are the 2 important bits. With keyword lists, and you should be very targeted. Have relevant ad copy, use lots of extensions, and utilize the full spectrum of search targeting for wider reach. So that's, remarketing between the walled garden. And then the final 3, remember, type of screen can dictate context. So if someone's on their mobile, you would expect that they're in research, but don't let that assumption drive what you're doing. Use the data. We talked about bids and relevance for ad rank, and it's just one piece of the puzzle. Okay, so the first activity is just to, did I hear?
No.
Oh, this is your page. This is the Melbourne one. I'm from Melbourne, so that's why I chose it. So this is pretty much the page that all of the activities look towards. And I'm just assuming we're creating a campaign for this page because you're not advertising Melbourne, but you really want to, because lots of people in London are going to go to Melbourne and do a course. So to start, where could you advertise Faber's Melbourne courses? Where would you put ads?
Bing.
Absolutely.
Straight onto Bing, I would.
Straight onto Bing.
Get that sweet 9%.
Or 17.
Come on, it's like
Or
7.
17, you ask Bing or
UK
the
or
truth.
Australia.
Yeah, I don't know why there's that difference. Bing is an excellent answer. Anyone else?
And Google.
And Google. No.
Maybe.
Just on search?
I do research and do display. Display would be expensive, right?
Display is actually very cheap compared to search.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's so if I'm paying maybe £1 CPC, and this is a massive generalization, but if I'm paying £1 CPC on Google, I might pay about for display, maybe. It's because it's not, your click-through rate is going to be really low. So you might get 0.02 or 0.2% of the click-through rate versus maybe a 2 or 2-ish% click-through rate. But yeah, you could do it because it's cheap. So that would be good awareness.
Okay.
Do we use any retargeting? Yes? Who would you retarget?
Well, I mean, presumably, because this is outside, we would know people that have been looking at it, we could make a pixel on it and retarget them that way.
So people who have been to the site before.
And have bought the same. I don't know whether, with a pixel, can you actually work that out? Can you actually know people's behaviour other than that they just use the site?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to have people who bought a book,
yeah,
you can have that people who bought the book. Then you've got people who have just been to the landing page or anywhere on the site.
Yeah.
I guess if they've been anywhere on the site and they've bought a book, then that bit is irrelevant. You're just going to people who've been on the book. But say you want people to have bought 2 separate books. You've got your separate cookie pools. When you're targeting your campaign, you can add both of those into your campaign, and you can do it with an and or an or. So you can say, I want people who have bought both of these books, then I know they're really engaged, and I want to target my ad to them. Or I can go, well, actually, I don't care which one, but I just want either of these people. If they've done one of these things, I want to target them. So you've got that opportunity too. Yeah. And I would probably also target people who have looked at a certain page that shows me they're really interested. Maybe they've looked at the price page, or maybe they've started filling out, they've been to the contact us page, but they haven't actually completed it. So they've been to the contact us page, but they've not been to that confirmation page. So you know something has stopped them. It doesn't mean that they weren't interested. It might mean that their lunchtime finished and they got distracted, or that something was on TV. So that is about a reminder to get them to come back and finish it so that you can get their details, because you can't see their details with remarketing. You need them to actually fill out that form. Cool. I think that's kind of everything. You can do, it depends how much your budget is for this. If you've got 100 grand and you really want to push it, go with everything. But if you've got like 5,000 or 1,000 pounds or something and you really want to just do it very nichely, then I think everything we've talked about is pretty much it.
And would you, if you really had to prioritize, would you go for a form of remarketing over just search advertising on, say, Google, blank, maybe with some, we can't remember what you call it, bid definers to do it? Obviously, if you're doing it there, you'd want to have something that took it in a location at the very least.
So yeah, if I had like no money, and I needed to be as specific as possible, if I've got a remarketing list that I know, like if I know that someone has, if I just wanted to focus on people that have started contact us page but haven't purchased, that's my target market. Pretty much that would be my remarketing list, and it would need to meet those thresholds. But I would go big with that. So
you said there's a sort of minimum scale threshold.
Yeah, so I think it's about 1,000 cookies. But then I would probably, if they typed in anything broad on Google, so training, Melbourne, course, I would target them there. I would target them in display. I would target them in Gmail if I could. Basically, I would do what I could for a certain amount of time. Like maybe I followed them around for a bit, no more than 3 times a day, no more than 5 or 7 days. But that person, there's always going to be people coming into the pool and people leaving the pool. So having a short time frame is not a bad thing. I would also have the keywords that are most specific. So creative writing course in Melbourne, absolutely show that, especially if you're not on high ranking organically. And definitely people are typing in Faber or Faber course, that kind of thing. But if people typing in general writing courses, maybe, but maybe not people just looking at courses. So you start with what's the most impactful. I might go with people are typing in training courses and have a similar audience overlaid, rather than just having training courses. If that could be like creative writing course, that might be, maybe you get like 1,000 searches a day on that, but really you only have enough spend for 100. So if you overlay that with your similar audiences, then that might bring it down to about 50% of those. Are you more likely? Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. So let me